October 27, 1942. 8 a.m. Guadalcanal. Platoon Sergeant Mitchell Paige sat in a folding chair inside Battalion Command tent. He'd been fighting for 10 hours straight. His hands were burned. His ears rang. Blood covered his uniform. Some was his. Most wasn't. Across from him sat 3 Marine officers. Lieutenant Colonel Herman Hanneken, Battalion Commander. Captain Lewis, Doc Ditta, Company Commander. Major Kenneth Bailey, Operations Officer. They weren't there to congratulate him. They were there to interrogate him. The problem was simple. Paige's report was impossible. According to his account, he held a ridge alone for 90 minutes against hundreds of Japanese soldiers. He claimed to have killed 200 enemy combatants. He stated he fired a 32-pound machine gun from the hip while leading a bayonet charge. The officers didn't believe him. How could they? No single Marine had ever accomplished anything remotely similar. The numbers defied logic. The tactics violated doctrine. The survival defied probability. So, they questioned him. For 3 hours. If you want to see what happened when they couldn't break his story, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true war stories. Back to the interrogation. Mitchell Paige was born August 31, 1918, in Charleroi, Pennsylvania. Serbian immigrant father, steel mill worker. The family was working class. At 18, Paige walked 200 miles to Baltimore to enlist in the Marines. He was underweight. Regulations required 140 pounds minimum. Paige weighed 136. He sat in the recruiting station eating bananas and drinking water until he made weight. That determination would save his life 6 years later. Paige trained at Paris Island. Boot camp, 8 weeks. He qualified expert marksman, 238 out of 250 points. In 1937, he attended machine gun school at Quantico. He studied the M1917 Browning water-cooled machine gun. Rate of fire, 450 rounds per minute. Effective range, 1,500 yards. Total weight with tripod and water, 103 pounds. Paige became an expert operator. He could field strip the weapon blindfolded. He could clear jams in seconds. He could maintain sustained fire for hours. This expertise would matter. By September 1942, Paige was Platoon Sergeant, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. He commanded a machine gun section, 4 guns, 16 Marines. Their position, a ridge 400 yards south of Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The ridge was called Coffin Corner. Previous Marines had died defending it. On October 25, 1942, Japanese forces attacked. Regimental strength, 2,000 soldiers. Objective, Henderson Field. Route, directly through Paige's position. The battle began at 10:15 p.m. Japanese infantry advanced uphill. Paige's 4 machine guns opened fire. The fight was brutal. By 3:18 a.m. on October 26th, 3 guns were destroyed. 15 Marines were dead or wounded. Paige was alone with 1 M1917 and 600 rounds of ammunition. He held for 90 minutes. He killed an estimated 150 to 200 Japanese soldiers. When reinforcements arrived at 3:19 a.m., he grabbed the machine gun, disconnected it from the tripod, and led a bayonet charge down the ridge. The Japanese retreated. That was Paige's story. At 8 a.m., his commanders wanted proof. Lieutenant Colonel Hanneken spoke first. Sergeant Paige, walk me through your ammunition expenditure. Paige was exhausted. His voice was hoarse from smoke inhalation. Sir, I started with 2,000 rounds at my gun position. I estimate I fired 400 to 600 rounds, supporting the other gun positions before they were overrun. After I was alone, I had approximately 1,400 to 1,600 rounds remaining. I expended all of it. Hanneken wrote notes. 600 rounds. 90 minutes alone. That's approximately 18 rounds per minute. The M1917's sustained rate is 450 rounds per minute. Why so slow? Paige explained. Fire discipline, sir. Short bursts. 5 to 7 rounds. Conserve ammunition. I didn't know how long I'd be alone. If I'd fired continuously, I would have been empty in 4 minutes. Major Bailey interrupted. 18 rounds per minute for 90 minutes. That's intelligent fire control. But you claim 150 to 200 enemy kills. That's 8 to 10 rounds per kill. Machine guns average 20 to 50 rounds per kill in defensive positions. Your efficiency is statistically impossible. Paige leaned forward. Sir, the Japanese attacked in waves, dense formations, poor cover discipline. They charged straight uphill. I had elevated position, clear fields of fire, overlapping sectors. Every burst hit multiple targets. Bailey wasn't convinced. Every burst? In darkness? At moving targets? Yes, sir. That's marksman-level accuracy with a crew-served weapon in combat conditions. I'm expert-rated on the M1917, sir. I've trained for 6 years. Captain Ditta asked the critical question. Sergeant, how many bodies did you personally count after the battle? Paige hesitated. Sir, I didn't count personally. After the counterattack. I was ordered to report here, but before I left, I saw approximately 50 bodies within 30 yards of my gun position, more scattered downslope. Hanneken made another note. 50 confirmed. You claim 200. Where are the other 150? Downslope, sir. In the ravine. The Japanese dragged some away during withdrawal. So, 75% of your claimed kills are unverified? Sir, I'm reporting what I observed during the fight. I don't know how many the Japanese removed. The officers exchanged looks. The math was problematic. 50 confirmed bodies. 200 claimed kills. The discrepancy was enormous. Major Bailey opened a field manual. Sergeant, you stated you fired the M1917 from the hip during the counterattack. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Bailey read from the manual. FM 23 to 45, Browning machine gun caliber 30. Quote, the M1917 will be employed from the tripod mount in all combat operations. Hip firing is prohibited due to weapon weight, recoil forces, and safety concerns. End quote. You violated field manual guidance. Paige didn't flinch. Sir, the situation was extraordinary. I had no time to remount the gun. The Japanese were 30 yards away. I grabbed the gun and attacked. You grabbed a 32-pound weapon and fired it like a rifle? Yes, sir. For how long? 8 to 10 seconds. 50 rounds. What happened to the recoil? I braced against it, sir. I'm strong. I played linebacker in high school. I've been carrying this gun for years. Hanneken interrupted. Sergeant, the M1917 generates 15 foot-pounds of recoil per shot. At 450 rounds per minute, that's sustained force equivalent to being punched by a heavyweight boxer every second. You're telling me you absorbed that for 10 seconds while running downhill? I didn't run, sir. I advanced at a walk. I braced the gun against my hip. The recoil was severe, but manageable. Captain Ditta asked, what was your hit rate while hip firing? Paige paused. I don't know, sir. The Japanese were in front of me. I fired. They fell or scattered. I couldn't assess accuracy in darkness. So, you don't know if you hit anyone during the hip firing phase? I know the Japanese charge broke. They retreated. That was the objective. Bailey shook his head. This is tactically unsound. You abandoned a prepared defensive position. You attacked a numerically superior force. You employed a crew-served weapon in a manner prohibited by doctrine. Sergeant, this sounds like recklessness, not heroism. Paige's voice hardened. Sir, I was alone. My Marines were dead. The Japanese were overrunning the position. Staying in the foxhole meant death. Attacking created shock. It bought time for the counterattack force to reach me. I made the decision I thought would save lives. Your life or the mission? Both, sir. The tent fell silent. Hanneken wrote more notes. The tactics were unprecedented. But they'd worked. Lieutenant Colonel Hanneken shifted topics. Sergeant Paige, you fought alone for 90 minutes against hundreds of enemy soldiers. You were exposed in an elevated position. You were backlit by muzzle flash. You were firing a weapon that produces smoke, noise, and visible tracers. Japanese soldiers threw grenades at your position. They fired rifles at you. They advanced to within 20 yards. Yet you weren't hit. Explain. Paige exhaled. Sir, I don't have an explanation. I was lucky. Lucky for 90 minutes? Yes, sir. Major Bailey leaned in. Sergeant, grenade fragments were found in your gun's tripod. The blast pattern indicates the grenade exploded less than 10 feet from your position. Shrapnel travels at 3,000 feet per second. You should be dead. Why aren't you? I don't know, sir. I heard the grenade land. I dove. Maybe I was in defilade. Maybe the fragments went overhead. I don't know. Captain Ditta asked, how many grenades were thrown at your position? I counted 5, sir. Maybe more. It was dark. I was focused on firing. 5 grenades, 10-foot radius each. You survived all 5. Yes, sir. Hanneken referenced another report. Private Gaston, one of your ammunition handlers, was killed by rifle fire at 1:50 a.m. You were 3 feet from him. The same volley should have hit you. It didn't. Why? Paige's voice cracked. Sir, I don't know. Gaston stood up to grab an ammunition belt. He was exposed. I was prone behind the gun. Maybe that's why. Maybe randomness. I don't know. Bailey pressed harder. Sergeant, you're telling me that in 90 minutes of continuous combat, while stationary in a known position, illuminated by your own muzzle flash, targeted by hundreds of enemy soldiers, you weren't hit once? Not by grenade, not by rifle, not by machine gun. That's not luck. That's miracle. Paige stared at the table. Sir, I'm not claiming anything miraculous. I'm reporting what happened. I fought. They died. I didn't. That's war. Hanneken closed his notebook. Sergeant, your story is extraordinary. Too extraordinary. The numbers are implausible. The tactics are unsound. The survival is statistically impossible. If I submit this report as written, higher command will reject it. They'll accuse you of exaggeration. They'll accuse me of poor verification. I need you to revise your statement. Lower the kill count. Remove the hip-firing detail. Acknowledge you had more support than you're claiming. Paige stood. His hands shook. Sir, I won't lie. 15 Marines died on that ridge. Schmidt, Gaston, Leipart, Lockhack, Kelly, Thomas, Adelman, Burke, Goins, Hayes, Meyer, Kelson. I won't dishonor them by minimizing what happened. They held that ridge. They killed Japanese soldiers. They died, so Henderson Field wouldn't fall. I survived because of them. I'm reporting the truth. If command doesn't believe it, that's their problem. The tent fell silent. Hanneken studied Paige. Burned hands, hollow eyes, blood-stained uniform. He looked at Ditta and Bailey. They nodded. Hanneken spoke. Sergeant, we'll verify your account with the counterattack force. We'll count the bodies. We'll examine the gun. If the evidence supports your story, I'll submit it as written. If not, you'll face charges for filing a false report. Dismissed. Paige saluted and left. Over the next 6 hours, Marines counted bodies. 52 Japanese dead within 50 yards of Paige's gun position. Another 46 scattered downslope. 15 more in the ravine. Total confirmed, 113. Estimates suggested the Japanese removed 50 to 100 additional casualties during withdrawal. The math aligned with Paige's claim. The M1917 was examined. The barrel was warped from heat. The water jacket was empty, evaporated. The tripod had grenade shrapnel embedded in the legs. The gun had fired approximately 1,500 to 2,000 rounds based on wear patterns. Paige's estimate was accurate. 40 Marines from the counterattack force were interviewed. All confirmed seeing Paige firing the M1917 from the hip. All confirmed he led the bayonet charge. All confirmed the Japanese retreated. At 4:04 p.m. on October 27th, Lieutenant Colonel Hanneken submitted his report. The recommendation, Medal of Honor for Platoon Sergeant Mitchell Paige. The citation would read, "For extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry, in action above and beyond the call of duty." On May 21, 1943, President Franklin Roosevelt presented the Medal of Honor to Mitchell Paige. The 3-hour interrogation wasn't malicious. It was necessary. War produces exaggeration. Adrenaline distorts perception. Fear amplifies memory. Officers must verify claims before submitting them. Paige's account was extreme. 200 kills, 90 minutes alone, hip firing a 32-pound machine gun. Any competent commander would question it. But Paige's story was true. The evidence proved it. The witnesses confirmed it. 15 Marines died defending a ridge most people have never heard of. 1 Marine survived. That Marine held long enough to save Henderson Field. Henderson Field remained operational. Guadalcanal remained American. The war's momentum didn't shift to Japan. The mathematics are brutal but clear. 15 deaths prevented thousands. 1 Marine, 1 machine gun, 90 minutes. Those 90 minutes mattered. Mitchell Paige died November 15, 2003, at age 85. He was the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from Guadalcanal. He lived 61 years after the battle. He never claimed to be a hero. He claimed to be a Marine who did his job. When reporters asked how he survived, he said, "God was with us." When they asked why he fought alone, he said, "I had no choice. The alternative was losing." The truth is uncomfortable. War isn't about heroes. It's about ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, making impossible decisions. Paige made those decisions. 15 Marines made those decisions. Most died. 1 survived. The survivor was questioned for 3 hours because his story sounded impossible. It wasn't impossible. It was just improbable. And improbable things happen in war. They happen when training meets desperation, when doctrine meets necessity. When 1 Marine decides dying while retreating is less acceptable than dying while attacking. That's what Paige decided. At 3:19 a.m., on October 26, 1942, alone on a ridge, ammunition exhausted, he grabbed a machine gun and attacked. The Japanese retreated. The ridge held. The mission succeeded. His commanders questioned him for 3 hours, but they couldn't break his story. Because it wasn't a story. It was the truth. If this account moved you, hit that like button. Every like helps preserve these stories. Subscribe for more true accounts of impossible courage. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Thank you for making sure Mitchell Paige's story and the stories of the 15 Marines who died with him are never forgotten.